What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to draw this out because a few months back I went to a client's property. Not going to disclose who it is or where it's at, but it was in hill country, and I posted something on the community tab on the channel, and somebody asked me to make a video about it, describing kind of like in a drawing on what I was talking about, because it was a pretty unique setup, and with what we came up with, I think it's going to be very effective, and they're already putting the work in trying to get it done. And the woods, the way it was set up was, so I'm going to try to make this a fairly quick video, but if you guys are new, give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions about this, and I can try to reply to you and answer them better if I possibly can on the comments. So this is a property. Here's a client's house here. This was a road that went down, main highway, lived right off of it. These two sections here was just open fields, and they did not want to create food plots in them because they were keeping them for maybe like cows or pasture set up, so they didn't want to mess with the fields. Now the woods here, all this brown area is all woods, and when I got there, the client was pretty adamant about putting food plots back into the timber, into the woods. So I always listen to what they have to say, and then if it makes sense, then I try to go a different route, or I try to work with them. If it doesn't make sense, then I try to steer away from that and try to give better advice, because it's all about them at that point. You have to try to cater to their needs and what equipment they have, and you have to walk the property and come up with a plan. So the way this property, this woods was set up, is this woods was pretty thick, and it had a lot of deadfalls and a lot of thick cover in these woods. It was a complete bench setup. I suck at drawing, but from starting this line here, the woods went down like this. It had bench systems all the way through like this, all the way back down to a bottom where there was actually a creek and stuff down at the very bottom. Nowhere in that was there a flat area anywhere in this woods to make a food plot. The benches weren't really a bench. It was downhill. It was all downhill. Had slightly flat areas, down, slightly flat, and down. They weren't even wide enough to get a food plot in. One, it was too rocky. There was not an area in there that didn't have rock on it. It was just too thick, too messy, and too much cover. One thing we noticed as soon as we came in down this far side here and walked down where they're going to actually create a road system, kind of like this all the way around. They are going to do that, a road, just kind of access the property a little bit. And one thing they did have was they had a stand somewhere back in here, in one of these areas here. There was a stand set up, which they had to go down through the woods, down a hill, down again to get to this tree stand. Every time we hit a new bench system when we walk through the woods, we jump deer. Why? Because those benches where they went down was flat enough, and it had enough deadfalls in there. Those deer were bedded on the bench systems. There was not a single area in this entire woods that you could possibly make a food plot, that you could actually get to. The only way to do it would be clear sections, get rid of a lot of the deadfalls, get rid of a lot of the bedding, open the areas up so the deer can't bed in certain areas, and then try to make a food plot. It wasn't the best case scenario. We had to come up with a different alternative plan, and after searching and scouting these entire woods, I basically said, look, putting a food plot back here is not the best idea. We have to come up with something else. We have to continue on and just forget about these woods. We can leave the woods to the deer. The type of woods you have, the topography on it, it just is not meant for a food plot to be back here, because if we do create one, how are you going to get to it? You're just going to push the deer out. So leave your woods as just a huge sanctuary, and we can draw those deer out of the woods up to the tops. It's a very good setup. So what we did was we did put one stand right here. It was going to be relocated. It's right here because they can slip from the house and go down to this side here. There was a huge trail coming through, running this bench system. That was the only stand we actually put back into this woods here. And what we ended up doing was we ended up putting this gap right here between these two lines. This was a flat spot. It's only flat stop before it went down to the bottom. So we ended up putting a food plot right here at the top, about a ½ acre. We put a food plot trail right here into another food plot at the top. I think we put a stand here, we put a stand here, and they're actually going to put another one right here, I believe. And what that allows for is the deer to bed back in the woods. We're not disturbing them. You're leaving them alone. They can come through their house, boom, boom, and they can come down here to this one. They can come down here to this one. We're drawing the deer out of the woods to the food plots for the afternoon hunts. Including in that, they're making a strip about 8 foot wide along this edge here, all the way around like this, of switchgrass. And that's just going to add extra cover so they can't see out, and then also allows the hunter to access these stands behind that switchgrass. They can just going to give them a little bit more abilities to get to their tree stands. And also around the stands as well, they're planting some tree plantings, some cedars and stuff, to also hide their access so when they get into that tree stand. Now another thing we did was we put a food plot over here, big one, about 1 acre. Reason being is a flat spot on top of this, and then on these edges they went downhill. They all went down to a bottom again. As soon as we walked this section of the woods, when we got to the top, where just before it dropped down a huge hill down into a bottom, there was all kinds of deadfalls, and we jumped like 20 deer. Why? Because it was flat down the bottom. They had all kinds of deadfalls, and that's where the deer were bedded into, because they felt safe down there because of all the structure on the ground. So again, they can leave their house, boom, go right into here and hunt. There's a rifle setup. I think they had some houses and stuff over here, and they already had tree plantings from here around this little flat spot to block access to the houses. And it's going to be a good setup. This is a 1 acre food plot here. This was a half, this was a half. And after I explained all this, like, man, you have to leave these woods alone. You have to draw the deer out to these food plots. You're going to have much better success, much better results. And it made sense to them after the day of being there. But that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes you know, because a food plot, you want to have a food plot, you can't just put it anywhere. It has to be in a specific spot, because if you put it somewhere and you can't get to it, you're constantly spooking deer out of the woods, you make the property worse than when you started. So you have to realize that. Leave the woods alone. Just let the deer have it. Draw them out of the bottoms, up the hills, around the benches, saddles, and pinch points and stuff into these food plots, and you'll have way better results. Any questions, guys? Leave a comment down below. I'll reply to you, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want more information on food plots, soil samples, and habitat management, click this video right here on the screen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you guys are new.